Welcome to another episode of Accountants Are Sexy, Change My Mind. Today I have Will Farnell with me, who off screen or off chat, I've just been saying I've been chasing for a while. I have been chasing him for a while to come onto this show. The reason being is because last year when I went to Accountex, I saw his presentation on the human firm. And I was like, this is amazing. This sounds, I really resonated with it. And everything you were saying was just like, this is so true and this needs to be told. So I'm really pleased that you've written the book, and I'm extra pleased that you're appearing on this show. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm sorry it's taken me a year.
Well, whatever. It's fine. We've had a fun year. But it's nice you're on here now, and it's nice to have you on here with the release of the book, which is going to be in a minute. When is this
26.
26. Fantastic. So this is going to come out just before then. So are pre-orders available? I mean, this is going in super early, but for my benefit.
Yes, to a point. So with the way Amazon works is you can set pre-order on Kindle, but
Right.
you can't on the book. So I've got to be really careful here because obviously we want the book to release on the 26th, but we've got to time it right. So there may be a little bit of timing difference in terms of when the book is available. And yesterday I was recording the Audible version.
Oh, fantastic. And you're doing that yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So it was 7 hours in the studio yesterday and another 7 hours tomorrow.
Oh, magic. That's that would make me incredibly nervous. Like incredibly nervous.
It's really funny because I left college and I set up a record shop and I managed bands. So like being in recording studios was kind of where I lived my youth, and I absolutely loved it. But it was always kind of the other side of the microphone. So it's really weird being in a proper recording studio yesterday and actually being the one that had been recorded. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is fancy. I jumped straight in with the book because I'm absolutely dead excited about it, dead excited to read it. But I do want to make sure that people who haven't heard of you, which is probably few and far between, but who haven't heard of you know a bit more about what you do. So that was an interesting insight into your past. How did you end up in accountancy?
It's funny, isn't it? Because in most cases, nobody kind of sets out to be an accountant. And before I set my firm up, I did actually do some lecturing and tutored final stage accountancy students. And I'd have a classroom of about 25 people, and I'd say, who at like 14 knew they wanted to be an accountant? And if I was lucky, one hand would go up. So the majority of people fall into accountancy, which is kind of a bit of a shame, but they do. And I was no different. So I wanted to be a management consultant. So that was where I wanted to be. And I thought, well, the way I'm going to get into a big four firm is to qualify as an accountant. So that's kind of what I did. And I did end up working for PwC for about 5 years in process improvement and efficiency consulting. But actually, whilst I did my accountancy exams, I thought, actually, you know what, this isn't too bad, actually. So when I was studying, a friend of mine and I said, we'll set up an accountancy firm when we get our practicing certificates, which we did. We both had very different perspectives. So I set Farnell Clark up I left my full-time job rather in May 2007. So for me, that was the start. That was when Farnell Clark really started. But very quickly, we realised that my partner and I had very different ideas about how to run an accounting firm. She trained in practice, I hadn't, and it just meant that there were different perspectives. So we decided to go our separate ways, which was fine. I kept the brand name because I'd been out doing the networking and everything else. But one of the big things for me, 2007, the internet was a bit of a thing, and I thought there's got to be a better way. I mean, the whole reason I set Farnell Clark up, and I talk about it a lot in the book, is that I genuinely felt professional services were broken. That clients didn't get what they deserved, and I set out with this grandiose mission that I was going to change the way professional services were delivered and the way that the people that used those services perceived them, and that was my purpose. And I talk a lot about purpose in the book, and technology was a big part of that. And we became a partner of Cashflow in 2008. because I spent about 18 months looking for what I thought should exist, which was accounting software on the internet. And there were some dreadful products, really, really bad. But came across Cashflow. We partnered with Cashflow in 2008. By the middle of 2009, we were their largest partner firm, which wasn't overly difficult in 2009. But by the end of 2009, every client we were working with was using Cashflow, which I think probably made us the first 100% cloud practice globally back in 2009. So technology's been a huge part of our growth. So the firm is now about 75 people. If we kind of average out what we've done somewhere in the region of about 30% year on year revenue growth every year for 15 years, which is great, but it's kind of quite painful to manage that level of growth consistently. But we did a lot with technology because of the time that we did it. Lots of vendors started to ask me to talk to prospective customers for their software. And I ended up writing a book in 2018 called The Digital Firm, which was really the blueprint of what we'd done as a firm and what I at the time believed was really important for accounting firms to think about. And I then started doing lots of speaking around what the digital firm was about. And about 2020, 2019, maybe pre-COVID, I started to use a slide in my presentations that talked about evolution, because when we started, we were termed as online accountants, and it was really quite derogatory.
I remember this slide.
Yeah. People just like thought, well, it's like, we don't care about the client. All you want to do is do it as cheaply as possible. Whereas it was a polar opposite. It's like nobody got it. That it's like, I wanted access to my client's data all the time. So we did online accounting. It then became cloud accounting because Xero started to get their ecosystem. Receipt Bank came along. We partnered with Receipt Bank in 2011. We were Go Cardless's first accounting partner in 2012. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we did with tech, and the ecosystem started to build, and people started to refer to cloud accounting. So we were cloud accounting before it was cloud accounting. And then we get to the digital firm, which was really this point that we get technology working, we get the processes to match the technology, which is kind of really important, because it's no good using the technology if you don't change your business model and the processes that underpin it. So we got to the digital firm about 2018, and I started talking about what's next. So what's the next evolution? And I started to talk about the idea of the people firm or the human firm. And by the time you saw the session last year, it was definitely the human firm. And it was, how do we evolve from the digital firm to the human firm? And the point of that is that we're at a point where everybody has access to the same technology. And anybody can go out and find stuff on the internet where I talk very openly about the processes that we have in our firm. Lots of other leading firms will share what they're doing. So the only way that we can differentiate what we do is through our people, in terms of the people we have within our team, but also responding to the shifting expectations that clients have. So,
and I think this is where I was particularly interested. Obviously, coming from a marketing perspective, I think that marketing is from every single touch point in your business. So every time you pick up the phone, every time you send an email, every time you do anything, every time you communicate anything to do with the software, the benefits and so forth, that's all marketing for your phone, because it helps you differentiate yourself. And I think people miss the concept of it, because they're quite stuck in the technology. Like, what does it do, rather than how we're going to present this to our customers and what's the benefit of it?
Yep, absolutely. And marketing runs. I mean, I'm at the point in the book, I start a chapter and say I'm not a marketeer, but actually I think that focusing on brand isn't enough. And there's a chapter in the book called The Living Brand, because actually what I think we need is personality. So we actually need firm personality, because you are a marketeer, so you'll understand the concept of brand. But for me, brands are quite static, and actually it doesn't reflect mood and development and everything else. If we think about firms having a personality or a living brand, something that can evolve as the firm evolves, because we're a very different firm to what we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point that we're no longer that flightly teenager. And we've had to grow up a bit. And it means to a point we can't perhaps do some of the things that we used to do, but we still want to cling on to the things that are really important, that underpin our brand values and our culture. But actually, it's our personality that is what we try and present.
With 75 people in your team, that must be kind of culture driven. And it must be a bit of a challenge to make sure everyone is individuals as they need to be,
Yes.
but also representing a culture. That must be quite difficult to manage.
It's huge, and actually the first book and this book is as much about me talking about the things that we didn't get right as the things that we did. And I think one of the big challenges we had is that we lost sight of purpose. And purpose is something that has I've only realized it very recently how powerful it was, and how powerful my clarity around the purpose of why I set the business up, the way that drove our evolution and the decisions that we made. But we got to a point where I stopped talking to people about what that purpose was, because I got removed from kind of the induction for the new team members, and James, our MD, who obviously gets what we're about, started to not be involved in interviews, and all of a sudden we have this disconnect between what we're trying to do and what we believe we're about, and what people are hearing that are joining the firm. So we've had to kind of reverse engineer and rebuild all of that stuff. But that's why it's so difficult, because as you as a principal, the person that gets the values and everything else gets further removed from what happens on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to maintain that stuff.
So values is something that obviously is marketing, and I support with people with their marketing. So I talk about values all the time, but not everybody really understands them. Did you go through any kind of formal process, or did they just come out naturally, or how did you decide upon what your values are and how they should be represented?
So it started really early. So we had our purpose, we had a bit of a vision, and in 2011 we were a team of about 8 people, and we did a workshop with our whole team to establish our brand values.
Okay.
And pretty much they haven't changed. So we every now and again we'll go out to the team and we'll test them and say, are these still valid? Do these still
What do they
resonate
mean to
with
you?
you?
Yeah.
And generally they do. But on your point, a really interesting thing is I do lots of work with accounting firms from a mentoring point of view, and historically people have got in touch with me because they think they want to talk about process and technology, but without fail, without exception, and I say this in the book as well, we end up talking about 2 things, or 3 depending on how you do it: vision and values, and pricing, without exception. So every single accounting firm, we have to start with, why do you do what you do? And I try and position it really simply in terms of, why do you do what you do, what do you do, and how do you do it? And if people can answer those 3 questions, you've got the start of a really strong marketing message. Because I make the point, it's really easy to grow an accounting firm. It's much harder to scale an accounting firm. And the growth bit comes from really knowing that why, what, and how. Because if you understand that, you can then be consistent. You've got a message, shout it from the rooftops, and in theory, you should grow. And sorry, I'm oversimplifying marketing there.
Well, that's my job done. But no, you're right. I think the thing that you need to add to that is consistency. So people overcomplicate marketing. It's about having a very clear message to a very clear audience and saying it consistently enough in ways that resonate. You know, for accountants, there is no magic pill. There is no magic marketing pill that you have that they don't. It's about knowing your vision, your values, and what you offer, and just talking about it. Just
You're going to love the
talk
book,
about
Kelly.
I'm dead excited. And I don't, so often I'd say that about books, but I am dead excited about it. So yeah, no magic pills for marketing, I'm afraid, but everything that you've just said. Talk to me then about, like, there is this whole, accounting has gone through this massive digital change, as you have well explained with your evolution. and you feel like they're coming out the other side, but that doesn't mean technology has stagnated. So what's the kind of future for tech?
So I think there's a couple of things there that we need to kind of deal with first. Is in an ideal world, the tech is embedded and everybody's doing it. The stark reality is they're not. So in 2018, when I wrote the book, I said adoption of cloud accounting tools was 20% of the market.
Yeah.
We're 5 years down the road, and guess what? It's still 20%. And
Wow.
what that means is that I was really over ambitious in 2018. Because however I cut it, I still can't get beyond the fact that only 20% of the market are doing this stuff, which is brilliant for firms that are coming to it now and saying, oh, crikey, we're way behind, because they're not. They're still early adopters. It's absolutely madness that we started this 14 years ago and we're still in the early adopter stage. So those firms that are doing this now, and I think we have to be careful in terms of what I mean by doing even cloud accounting. I mean, forget that, people should be doing digital firm. But in terms of, I don't know, 75% of your qualifying client base that fit this stuff should be doing it, and they should have a general ledger, they should have a pre-accounting tool, and they should have bank fees connected. And most people are absolutely astonished the number of firms that have got people on Xero and haven't got bank fees connected, or aren't using a Dex or an auto entry or a hub doc or whatever it is, and they're still keying data manually. And then people moan that it takes me longer to do it than it used to when I keyed it into a spreadsheet. Well, of course it does, because the software isn't designed for you to key data into it.
Yeah.
So we've got to, that's that point about you've got to change process. You've got to rethink the business model. And we make the point in this book that you can't be a human firm if you haven't already cracked the digital firm, because it's a stepping stone. So for lots of people, I hope they're going to go and revisit the digital firm and say, well, what are we not doing that we should still be doing?
That's interesting, because people, I think there is still a lot of nervousness around technology and how it takes away from that personal interaction. So that, would you say that that's the reason that they are being put off adopting this technology?
No. I think it's more simplistic than that. I think that there isn't enough pain to make people change what they're doing. Accountants are, we're by our very nature, we're generally kind of fairly risk averse. If something's working, we keep doing it, and the model isn't sufficiently broken yet. But it's really disappointing that we have to wait for the model to break, because actually what we should be doing, and it's what the human firm is about, is looking at what our clients need, what our clients want and actually need but don't understand they need it, because that's our job to educate them in terms of what they need. And it takes things like COVID pandemics and MTD and everything else to drive change in behavior.
You mean to try and break it? MTD tried its very best to break it.
and that's, there's some frustration that I hope comes across in the book, that I am really frustrated that more firms are not making the change because it's the right thing to do. And yes, there might be a bit of short-term pain for them in doing so, but it's about doing what clients need, rather than continuing to just do what we've always done, because that's what we've always done it.
Do all clients need to adopt technology? What about the ones who are less technology driven, don't want to take this on? What about those clients? I get this argument all the time. I'd love to hear your.
Firms have a choice in terms of whether they want to work with those kind of firms, but I think regardless, there is value to an accountant helping a sole trader or whatever they might be really understand what's going on in their business. What are the things they can do to work more efficiently, have more time with their family, whatever it is. And this is that point about, if we don't understand what somebody is striving to do, because everyone, regardless of whatever size of business they have hopes, dreams, aspirations. And because somebody only pays us £250 a year for doing a tax return, then it's almost like we don't feel that we have to ask them those questions in terms of what are you trying to achieve, or how long do you want to work for,
It's quite
other things you'd love
transactional.
to do. Do you want your spouse to be able to stop work, and what would you need to do in your business to enable that to happen?
Mm.
And when we understand those things, we can think about how we can support them achieve those. And so much of it might be that technology is a foundation to that, even if it's us understanding what's going on so we can help and advise them, helping them get paid faster. I mean, tradespeople are a prime example.
Yeah.
And we had a plumber doing some work at our house who's now a client of ours. But he would turn up and he'd write in his diary every day all the things that he did, and he'd take a day off every month to do his accounts.
Wow.
And he's a plumber who could be earning, I don't know, £400 for a day's work,
Yeah.
and he took a day off to do his billing.
Yeah. When he
And he
could
said
just be doing it on the fly.
yeah, by his own admission, he said he'd go and do boiler services, annual boiler services for people. They'd say, "Oh, you still haven't sent me the bill for last year." And I mean, and that's not
It blows
uncommon.
my mind.
It does, but it's not uncommon, and it's really simple. A simple piece of technology
Yeah.
can ensure that, in this case, that plumber got the money in his bank either the day he did the job or a few days after, rather than if the client didn't say anything, he'd have done the work for free. So we have a role, we have an obligation, and that kind of, it's a strong word to use, but I genuinely believe that as accountants, we have an obligation to help our clients have better lives, live better lives, and earn what they deserve for the work that they do.
Yeah, very much so. So, because we're going to be talking about some events that are coming up in a minute, just talk to me about the future of technology with regards to people have got it. If people have it implemented in their business and they've got the systems like you, where is it going to go from here? Where are the innovations going to come from? Because it seems very busy at the moment with innovation.
Yeah, I mean, I've said publicly a few times that actually I think innovation has massively slowed, particularly in the general ledger space. And kind of tongue in cheek, I said, well, they're obviously just waiting for the service provision to catch up. So they're waiting for the accounting firms to catch up with their innovation of previous years. But it's still really exciting. Payments is a massive space at the moment. Loads of innovation in payment technology, which is brilliant.
I used Cresco the other day as a user, and I'm like, that was fun. As a user, brilliant, loved it.
Yeah, and that's simple automation again. So it's just finding ways to help our clients kind of work smarter. And then there's the whole AI stuff, and I think that underpins why the human firm is so critical, because we know that compliance is still being more and more commoditized. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be focused on it. Absolutely, we should. It's the bedrock, and it drives everything else that we do, and we have to get compliance right. And the technology is enabling us to grow our compliance offering. So our biggest growth area is more compliance. It's not advisory. It's running outsourced finance functions and doing things that we couldn't do when we had to go and send somebody to sit in a client's office for a day a week.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that. I have people that there's advisory, do advisory. And I'm like, okay, great. So what does that mean?
Yeah,
What?
I'll tell you what.
I don't know.
I make the point that our firm will be doing advisory, and every client we've got picks up the phone and asks every question they've got.
Yeah,
That's
very
it.
much so.
It's about
guide them.
Everybody's doing advisory. They just don't charge for it.
Yeah.
That's fundamentally the issue. We're helping clients all the time.
Yeah.
But we are not thinking about what we're doing and the value we're delivering, and thinking about that's outside scope and we need to charge for that.
Yeah, I think that's a heartbreaking thing. Most accountants that I speak to don't understand the impact that they have on people's lives because they don't go through that process of asking the questions in the first place. Therefore, they just see it as transactional. But the reason this podcast exists is because I put accountants on a pedestal, because you do something that I simply cannot do. I cannot do numbers in the way that you do. I cannot do detail in the way that you do. So you guys are up there for me. And I don't think that accountants recognize the impact that those small little conversations and those nuggets and those things have on the person that they're working with.
Yeah. So in terms of answering your question, it's what what AI really does for us in the future. I mean, AI is working. We're using AI in technology already.
Yeah.
We've seen what's happening with ChatGPT and everything else. In the book, there are a couple of sections written by ChatGPT.
Oh wow, that's very cool.
So we haven't told people where it is. And what I hope is that people will be able to find the bits that are written by ChatGPT. So there's a bit of a challenge.
There's a challenge.
There's a challenge. But it highlights again, and actually, I think everyone's getting really excited about it. It's an evolution of Google, really, isn't it? So,
don't say that, because Google have Bard.
Oh, they have. They do, yeah. but the principle is that actually people have been able to Google, should I be a sole trader or a limited company, for the best part of 15 years. Yet we've still given the advice. So it's that reassurance of a human kind of with a qualification saying, yes, this is the right approach because. So I think it just emphasizes the need for us to focus on being really human and looking at the things that we can do that the tech can't. Tech will continue to make our lives easier, automate, take away the mundane, which is exactly what we want it to do, because we want that capacity to be able to really make a human connection and make a difference to the clients that we serve.
Yeah, it's funny, if you ask for it, then you get it. So we have some events coming up. In fact, you're at almost every event that there is in the calendar. You were at QuickBooks Live.
Yes.
You're going to be doing some phenomenal stuff at Accountex, and I believe that you're on the stage at DAS as well.
Yes, I am. Yeah,
so
lots going on.
Lots going on. So next up is Accountex, which is in a few weeks' time. So it's creeping up on us. Tell us a bit about what you're going to be doing there.
And not having much in the way of rest, I think, is fair to say. So we've got a bunch of things going on. So firstly, the book launch. So this book is being published by Sage, which I'm really pleased to be able to work with Sage and James Ashford in particularly on this project. So James and I have got some stuff we're doing on Sage stand to launch the book at that event. We have our App Advisory Plus business, which is about helping accountants understand how to use technology, choosing the right technology, saving research time. We have our own theatre at Accountex. So we have 2 days of content in there, much of which I'm facilitating. So I'm going to be busy there. And then we have our Pronation stand as well, which is our kind of mentoring community.
Carl Reader
and Lucy Cohen.
Lucy, that's it.
Yep. So yeah, I'm going to be spread fairly thinly, but there are plenty of opportunities for people to come and talk to me and hear what I've got to say at Accountex. So really excited by the event.
Oh, we both froze there. We're back again.
Both of us. Yeah.
Question was,
I'm really excited by the event.
And my question was, do you have a holiday booked for afterwards? Because I think you're going to need it.
No, probably not. Probably not until the kids wake up in July. So, but hey, I thrive on this stuff, so it's not a problem for me. It never feels like work when I'm at events and talking to accountants and bookkeepers.
I will come and find you. I would really like to be there for your book launch, so I will come and hunt you down for that.
Excellent.
So I have a final question that I ask all of my guests.
Yes.
What is the sexiest thing about accountants?
So I think that sexiness isn't just on the surface. It's kind of what happens inside. And I think that the thing about accountants is that they're really caring. Every accountant I've ever met genuinely cares about their clients, often to the detriment of themselves, which is quite sad. But you know, the really nice girl, the really nice guy, that for me is the accountant's the sexy bit. It's the personality, it's the caring nature, and the desire to want to help other people. And that for me is what it's all about.
It's super sexy. This comes up so much. The fact that accountants really do truly care for their clients comes up so much when I ask that question. Well, that's all I need you for, Will. That was painless, right?
It's great. And I'm genuinely really sorry it's taken us a whole year. But obviously I'm really excited for the book to hit everybody's doormats after the 26th.
I think you've been a bit busy, so I'm going to completely let you off because you have been a busy boy.
Thanks.
I'm going to come and catch you at Accountex. I will put links to make sure people can come and get their tickets in this as well. If I link to your LinkedIn profile, is that a good place to come and see where you hang out?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly.
Well, I will do that. And I just want to say thank you ever so much. And it's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks, Kelly.